Welcome to a nighttime show, a show where we empower the voice of the people. I'm your host, Harper Wells, and tonight we'll be diving deeper into Medicaid. Thank you so much for being here today. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name is Alicia Rosenberg. I am a mental health therapist and I own a group practice in Chicago, Clearwater Counseling Chicago, where we provide all different types of therapy and medication management.
Awesome. Do you have a fun fact or anything about
Yes! One of the fun facts about us, or about me, is in my family and friends, we have a rule that if an animal is doing something incredibly adorable, that you have to stop whatever we're talking about, within reason, of course. You have to stop whatever we're talking about so you can see this adorable animal and or pet it. Then you get to continue what you're doing. And we hold everyone to that rule very strongly. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. It's important to do things that are adorable and fun.
That's exactly right.
And so what inspired you to speak about being a Medicaid provider today?
Yeah. So as a therapist, obviously, right, like I have a strong passion to help people. I don't see any other reason to get into this field. It doesn't pay very well. No, I'm just kidding. It does. Go to school and become a therapist. But the other piece is that I strongly believe in social justice. And I think that as being a part of the helping profession, it's really important to me to understand and to take care of underserved populations, as well as marginalized communities. And because there is financial strain that often goes against and impacts marginalized communities and underserved communities, they're often on Medicare and Medicaid. And I think that they are very much overlooked and underserved. And so I'm hopeful that today, part of this conversation can help empower people who are Medicaid recipients to use their resources and to know what's available to them. But I'm also hopeful that part of our conversation will inspire other providers to look into taking Medicaid and caring for this population because they're amazing.
Yeah, definitely sounds like more providers need to get on board.
Absolutely.
With,
I'd love to
helping
see
out
that.
the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we're lucky to have you here, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say. So let's dive in.
Woohoo! Let's do it.
All right. So you mentioned having a therapy business, which provides Medicaid.
Cares for Medicaid.
Can you provide a brief background on what Medicaid is and how it differs from the private insurance and Medicare?
Yes. I'm going to do my best to give you an overview. Please know it is very complex. There are lots of different layers and levels. I've provided you with some resources that hopefully people will be able to access if you have more questions. But here's a general idea. Medicaid is going to be for people who are at or below the poverty line. That's going to be set by the state, whatever that looks like. And you can go to your state website. Again, I gave you Illinois, to get an idea of what that looks like. But it's going to be for impoverished communities. There are also different layers underneath that for people who have children, but that's a whole nother podcast day. Medicare is going to be for people who are over the age of 65, think retirement age, over the age of 65, or people with severe illness, mental illness, physical illness, and they're on Social Security, so they're not able to work. Medicare is going to take care of them. You have a combined program for people who qualify for both, that's MMAI. And then outside of that, you're going to have private insurance, or commercial insurance is the more PC word. Commercial insurance, typically you get through your job, whether it's your job, your partner's job, your parent's job. You can buy commercial insurance on your own. It is incredibly expensive. And actually, when you get insurance through your job, they're helping pay that. So as a business owner, I pay half of the premium for all of my employees that have insurance. So it is the most affordable way. That, however, is what bred ACA and Obamacare. So ACA/Obamacare is basically a commercial insurance for all Americans. And it's going to be based on your income level. So you're not going to be paying $800 a month in premiums if that's not where your income can support. So that's kind of the point of Obamacare and ACA, is to be able to provide health insurance outside of your work. That's the general.
Well, I mean, this is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I mean, just hearing how there's basically depending on your income, disability status, and your job.
And who, you know, every insurance gets to make their own rules. A few years ago, thanks to ACA and Obamacare also, you can be in your parents' insurance up to 26. You can be, some people require you to be married, some you can just be cohabitating with to get commercial insurance, but and then there are layers all under that, so it is really complex. I wish we had learned it in high school.
I mean, it does sound like that actually would be a great resource to have to offer a class.
We'll just call it adulting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm doing. I call my mother far more in adulthood than I ever did in childhood. Yeah.
Well, on that note, what resources, if anything, are available to businesses who might be interested in offering Medicaid to their clients, and what was the process like for you?
Yeah. Again, part of the cornerstone of my mission has always been to make sure that we're caring for underserved communities. And to me, that always meant taking Medicaid. And so from the very beginning, which was 2016, it's been a while, so the process may have changed, there weren't a lot of resources. I just kind of had to figure it out as I went. So I think passion and a sense of duty is really what drove. I imagine there's more resources today. Also included in the resources I sent you would be the Health and Family resource. I can't remember the full beautiful name, but provider handbooks, which do break down some of those different pieces. Of course, there's Googling. Some of the Medicaid insurances, while run by the state, gets subdivided into MCOs, which is a managed care organization. Basically runs Medicaid like a commercial insurance would be. And actually, some big commercial insurances have MCO programs. An example of that would be Blue Cross Blue Shield has a Medicaid program. That's Blue Cross Blue Shield Community Health. Different entities, but both run by Blue Cross. Some of those MCOs have provider reps, and they are definitely really valuable in asking questions, getting information, working through the application process. So relying on those resources when they exist. And then Impact is, I can't remotely remember what it stands for, but if you even want to think about taking Medicaid, you have to become Impact certified. I think I gave you the link on that too. And the website's a little clunky and not super user-friendly, but the staff and the hotline to call and ask questions are wonderful. So I did this through a lot of phone calls, a lot of trial and error. And then the other piece would be talking to people like us. I have personally helped other practices and people who are interested in understanding Medicaid and passionate about trying to expand this community. You'll have my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions, and have other providers who've gone through this help guide that.
Awesome. Absolutely. I will be posting a link to all the resources that Alicia provided for all of you, which is amazing, and also her contact information. And it also sounds like becoming an in-network provider isn't the main issue. So what are the challenges with Medicaid-based?
Yeah. So, Medicaid is a government program, right? Which means it's really big and there are lots of pieces that touch it. I think it's important to understand that Medicaid is run by the states, which means the states get to decide a lot of the income requirements and whether you have to be looking for a job or not, pieces like that. There are also federal guidelines on top of that, and then you have the MCOs. So there are a lot of streams with which rules and expectations and guidelines come from, that can be a little overwhelming. To make sure that you are following the right ones for the specific MCO, for Medicaid, when those things changes, how that gets communicated. Again, Medicaid's a big program, so communication and collaboration can be difficult sometimes. Getting a hold of the right person, knowing who to talk to, knowing what questions to ask, all of that can be a little overwhelming. And understandably so, having a big program, there's a lot of money that goes in and out of it. With that comes, the fail-safes and checks and balances. And as a provider, you want to make sure you're doing that right and providing good care. And sometimes it can be really hard to keep up with making sure that we're doing it the way that the state or the federal government or the MCO wants it. And so there's, I think, anxiety in the community with insurance in general, but definitely with Medicaid, that we're doing it right and not risking getting audited or having clawbacks, which means they come in and take all the money they've paid you back out. So those are some of the challenges, I think, with just keeping up with. Not necessarily just getting paneled, but keeping up with.
Yeah. And it sounds like the therapy community as a whole wants to follow the rules.
Of course, yeah.
And although it's a bit unreasonable or almost unfair of how these rules are not being communicated in a way to the therapy community so they know exactly that they are following everything. And I think it sounds like
it's complex.
Yeah.
It's really complex, right? And on one hand, can absolutely respect that you need to make sure there's not fraud or waste, and that we're protecting the program so that the program can continue to exist. Balancing that with, making sure that things are clear, not changing all the time. And are fair to the people who are providing care and the people receiving care. I think it's a hard balance.
Well, so we need to know what the rules are so we can follow them.
Yeah, and the rules need to be reasonable, right? And again, finding that balance between making sure the rules are protecting this program so it can continue, but also making not getting in the way of us providing good care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had to sacrifice your own time or resources because it was too heartbreaking to turn people away from receiving care just because they were unable to receive reimbursement from the insurance companies?
Oof. That's a hard question. The answer is, of course, yes. My employees, anyone who knows me, but especially my employees, will know I have a bit of a bleeding heart, and it's hard for me to turn people away. So again, I got into this because I want to be a healer, right? And so to turn people away for financial reasons is really hard to do, especially when you know that they're already struggling financially. So I actually, when I hire employees, I tell them that we do take Medicaid, and that means that they're not going to get paid as much working for me as they are for someone else who only takes private insurance or commercial insurance, which makes sense. They pay a lot more. You're more likely to get paid, and we'll talk about that later. But there have definitely been times that we've taken on more Medicaid clients than maybe we should have. We've done sliding scale or pro bono. Because I knew we already had a relationship, or I knew there wasn't somewhere else for them to go. Or we just kind of gave up on fighting with the companies and just kind of ate the cost. So it's funny you ask that, in the sense that that's kind of where we've been in the last couple of years, is trying to find a better balance between business and that passion, and making sure that we're taking care of people. And sometimes that can be hard. So yeah, I've given away a lot more for free than I should have, and we're learning.
Yeah, definitely. It's not reasonable to expect any business to operate on a pro bono basis. You risk the business's survival. Do you ever wonder about patients who might be struggling due to not having access to care or not even understanding how to use their Medicaid? And what message would you like them to hear?
Absolutely. I know that you spoke with someone on the other side as a Medicaid recipient, person who has Medicaid, and how difficult it is. We are one of the few private practices that take Medicaid. Majority of them take commercial only, and only specific commercial. So I know it is incredibly difficult to find care at all, nonetheless good care. One of the things that tends to happen is that community agencies, these larger, places, do take Medicaid and are the only ones. And typically community agencies, their job is to be able to provide more wraparound care, have lots of different services, having the team members of people in a client's life. It's a higher level of care than private practice. So what tends to happen is people who need general mental health, they don't need that higher level of care. The only place they can go is a community agency. There's a lot of turnover often in those. They're overwhelmed and underfunded, of course. And so I can imagine there are a lot of you that it is really hard to find care. And to find care with a therapist who's going to be there for more than a month. So what I want you to hear is that what you need matters, and that there are places, not just community agencies, but there are practices and spaces where we will prioritize what you need. So pushing to find that can be hard, but it is important that you know that we're here. That being said, make your insurance work for you, whether it's straight Medicaid or an MCO, even a commercial policy. Their job is to make sure you get the care that you need. So don't feel like you're bothering them. Call and make sure that they place you with someone who can take care of you. And that process can be a little excruciating. Updating your information on an insurance website as a provider is kind of a gauntlet. So there is a chance that you're going to run into providers that have long waiting lists or are not able to see you for whatever reason. That's when I go back to my insurance and say, this person can't see me, find more. The last kind of bit would be, just because a practice says no, they can't see you, I would encourage you to go back and ask for resources. Okay, you can't see me, do you know someone who can? We do a lot of that. It's, again, part of that mission to take care of people. So if we can't treat you, we will make sure we find someone who can. And I need to provide that list with you of not just community agencies that take Medicaid, but private practices like mine that also do. So that there's some more choice, because I think that's hard to find choice.
There's another reason. It's so amazing that you're here today, someone who can actually help in the process.
Always.
Well, maybe what's the most memorable experience that you've had when dealing with Medicaid insurance, and what was the resolution?
So I want to make sure that I'm starting out by saying the running a government program, running Medicaid, being on the front lines, the people who answer the phone has to be incredibly complex. And I have a lot of empathy for how hard Medicaid personnel work, and how many, if it's complex to me, I can only imagine how much more they have to juggle. So go into it having a kind and empathetic viewpoint of what it must be like to be in their chairs, to be in mine. There's definitely been some frustration and heartbreak, especially when it comes to, again, making sure we understand the rules and that who we're talking to understands the rules. So the most, I'll say, memorable learning experience we have had taking Medicaid is understanding who is allowed to bill, what license levels is allowed to bill Medicaid, and which license levels are not. We were told in the beginning that fully licensed, like myself, associate licensed, people who are working on it, as well as students, could bill different Medicaid plans. For years, we operated on that. Our claims were being held for review. We had no idea what that meant. We kept calling weekly, And then eventually that slows down. And, you know, we got different responses saying, our system's changing over. Once it changes over, all your claims will be released and they'll be paid out. Okay, fine. Or Medicare used to only allow social workers. They now allow counselors. That's brand new. At the time we were calling and they were saying, well, we just have to wait for the Medicare legislation to go through and then we'll be able to pay out your claims. You're good to go. Sometimes we got people who said, I don't have no idea what the problem is. Call somebody else, which is not helpful. Finally, I bothered and called and emailed enough up the corporate ladder that I got someone who could actually help us, and she was a godsend. Turns out they won't allow anyone but fully licensed to bill. So this was 2.5 years of paying my employees to see Medicaid clients that we were not going to get reimbursed for. It was really frustrating and really disappointing because, again, we're trying to provide good care. It's already difficult for Medicaid clients to find care when you limit a significant portion of most practices. And you now only have one type of license that can bill. That, again, limits how many people can be seen and can be cared for. It also, we were expecting to get paid out for our work, and we weren't. And we just had to eat that cost. And that was really frustrating.
Wow.
Yeah. And had we known that associate license and student level could not bill, we wouldn't have kept doing that. And so it was a learning lesson on my part that you can't always trust, right? And like, I should have done a better job reading through the literature and figuring out, not just necessarily trusting what we were being told, but who has time for that, right? Like, I'm trying to provide therapy and I'm trying to support my employees to provide good care. So it was a painful learning lesson for us.
Yeah, that sounds, it sounds terrible that you weren't reimbursed for, you said, what, 2.5 years?
Yep.
That just seems outrageous, and especially for a government program to not pay someone. They are so adamant about getting paid themselves, so it's a bit hypocritical, I would say.
It feels broken, is how the system feels. And I mean, the truth is the rule was always there. It's just not one that we found or understood, and it's certainly not one that people answering the phones understood. And so again, I have empathy for it being a big program, and you want to make sure that we're minding fraud and abuse, but especially limiting it to only fully licensed clinicians. And then not necessarily telling us that in the beginning, or not having people who were helping us be educated. Like, all of those pieces came together and it really sucked.
Yeah, and you made an effort to find the information and couldn't even get to it and get access to it.
I've also, though, worked with some other Medicaid plans where we did everything right and still didn't get paid.
Wow.
And I've spent so much time doing spreadsheets and phone calls and emails and meetings, and I will go unnamed, but a specific company, they owed us a lot of money, and it wasn't, again, had to do a lot of pushing and trying to get people to help advocate with me, and I'd say we got about 50% fixed, and the last email I got was, well, we're not going to review this again, and my response is, well, but you processed this wrong, right? We've done everything right. It was a processing issue, which happens. You need to fix your mistake, and they won't. Which has led us to really limit which plans we'll take, which again hurts, because I know that I'm not the only provider having issues. And so people who have those specific plans now have one less practice that will see them, and that sucks for them.
There's definitely a breakdown, and the reason we want to speak about this is just because we would like to see things like these fixed for the better, and it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned all of these challenges, yet despite them, you continue to offer Medicaid to your clients. What motivates you to continue to deal with a system that creates more challenges than benefits for your business?
Because it's the right thing to do. Again, it's a personal mission of mine that underserved communities, marginalized communities, which often don't have access to good health insurance anyway, or the finances to pay for. I sure couldn't pay for a private insurance out of my own pocket. Poverty shouldn't be a crime, right? And so it aligns with my kind of ethical calling to make sure that we're always caring for them, always. And yes, this is a business, and yes, this is a job, but myself and the incredible people that I work with and work for me, again, knowing that they're not going to get paid what they could somewhere else because we take Medicaid, that we all go into it with our hearts in that same place, is really rewarding. So we continue to do it simply because I think it's the right thing to do. Not to disparage other practices, I totally understand why there are places that do not take Medicaid. Whether it's the low rates, they do not pay as much as a primary or commercial insurance plan would. If there are so many billing issues, you don't always know who your provider rep is. If you have one or there's high turnover, it can be kind of a beast sometimes. And so I absolutely understand the decision to not take them. So, I respect that, and I feel differently.
Definitely, Alicia with a big heart.
Sometimes too big. But it's a balance, trying to find that balance, and it's hard because the people suffer, right? Like when we have to scale back because I can't afford, especially as the world gets more and more expensive, I have to give my employees raises. The majority of our clients cannot be Medicaid. So trying to find that balance between taking care of people and running a business and making sure we're taking care of ourselves. So that's definitely a journey. But we will never stop taking Medicaid as long as they'll let us. And I think that also folds into, it is one of our missions that if we can't treat you, we'll help you find someone who can. Like, that is really important to me, that you're not just getting a no and then we're hanging up on you, but that we're making sure that we're connecting you to other places that we know have that similar mission. So it's not just us. We're not taking everyone who has Medicaid, but that we're creating a community of practices and agencies that we can share that burden with. Not the client burden, the financial one.
Absolutely. Well, so you've given us a lot of insight on the state of the Medicaid system today from the business owner's side. We thank you for your courage to speak up and for giving us your time.
Yeah.
Based on everything we talked about, is there anything you would like to emphasize in your experience with Medicaid?
Yeah. I think that the pieces I want to emphasize is that I think whether it's the federal government, the state government, the workers who answer the phone, the agencies and us, we're all in it for the right reasons. And I think that the more conversations we can have between us from a place of collaboration and teamwork, the better we can make this.
Well, it sounds like we need to have more collaboration, communication between the federal government and the state government. We're going to provide more support to the workers that are helping to carry out their rules, which is going to help the therapists and the clients that they are supposedly trying to serve. And we have resources that Alicia has given to us that I'm going to post after this post. And another thing that would help is to have information for therapists who are getting their degree, to have more information, knowing how to follow these rules, and to make them a bit more reasonable as well.
Yeah, I love the idea of, I think that the people who answer the phone on the front line, them having more support so they can support us better. As well as we are going to launch a campaign to get insurance literacy in high schools. So important.
Yeah.
And credit. Nobody understands credit. Yeah.
And, well, don't forget to check out Alicia. She's at Clearwater Counseling Chicago. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, and we are, of course, happy to provide as much resource as we can. Matthew's our executive admin, and we'll get you everything we possibly can, and we'll go above and beyond to make sure you've got the resource and you understand what you're doing. Shanna Helms, our social work guru, so she always has a pulse on changes and updates and programs, so again, that we can provide everything possible to make this process not so difficult to you. And even if we can't treat you, we'll help you find someone who can. So know that you matter. And then just the PSA is open enrollment is every November. You are automatically enrolled in an MCO. So making sure that you're paying attention to who that MCO is, you're getting it changed or updated if you want, making sure that your PCP is in network, and that you're keeping that November date in mind.
Absolutely. Well, join us next time and have a wonderful night.
Thanks, good night.